Johnny Mack and Angelo Gonzalez, aka Gallery Cat, aka Tech Son, like to take stories that aren't even remotely funny about me and make them into funny, cool stories about how silly I am and how bad a driver I am. And I am a bad driver, but like they take stories that are just like mundane and boring and make them funny for some reason, which is beyond me. I don't get it. So like the first or is it recording?
Yeah.
So like the first or second time I met this dude named Johnny Hatcher, and like he needed a ride to his house to pick up his gear for a practice I think we were having the next day. We went and picked it up, and he was like, "Hey, can I bring a beer in your car and drink it?" And so I was like, "Sure, whatever."
We're out in Melissa getting up Johnny Hatcher's gear in the car, and Johnny does bring a beer in the car and says, "Hey Matt, can I drink this?" Matt said, "Yeah, that's fine." So we get in the car.
And like as we're leaving, like I was getting directions from Johnny Mack, and I turned left when I was supposed to turn right, and John said, no, go right. So I did like a little 180 type thing in the middle of the street, because I didn't see any cars. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. I didn't think it was a big deal.
So we're pulling out of this neighborhood, and Matt says, "Which way should I go?" I said, "Go right." Matt goes left. And we're like, "Matt, we said go right." He's like, "Oh, okay." So he flips around the car in like a ginormous, huge, long, kind of meandering circle.
Like the second the cop turned on his lights, Johnny had just popped the beer in the car. And if you know anything about Texas, you know that if there's an open top or whatever on a beer, everyone in the car goes to jail. So
Johnny's like, "Shit, what do I do with this beer?" Because Johnny's sitting in the front seat, I'm in the very back. So Johnny hands me his beer, and I said, "All right, I'm going to put it in the back of your speaker cabinet because speaker cabinets are open on the back." Well, Johnny's happens to not be open, so I'm sitting in the back of the car with a beer with no place to put it. So I stick it behind my back, and I lean up and stick my feet up on the window of the car, and I'm just chilling.
This cop pulls me over, and he's like, "Hi, how are you? Can I see some ID?"
The cop comes to the window and says, "Well, the reason I pulled you over is because you made this loop-de-loop turn out there." And then he looks at the windshield and says, "And by the way, your inspection's about to be up next month." Which, at that point, Matt leans across the seat over Johnny and looks at the cop and said, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Officer. I'm glad you told me that." And the officer goes, "You doing all right tonight, son?" And Matt's like, "Yeah." He goes, "You a little tired?" He goes, "Well, yeah, I am a little bit tired." And he goes, "Why don't you step out of the car real quick?"
And the cop pulls me out of the car, and he was like, "I saw you do a quick turn 180 thing really fast out of this neighborhood. Have y'all been drinking tonight?" And I was like, "My friends have, but I haven't had anything to drink." And I really hadn't had anything to drink at all that night.
So me and Johnny are like, "Oh shit," because we don't think that Matt could hold it together enough to like not say, "There's a beer in the car."
And I just wanted to be like, "Just give me a breathalyzer so I can go." But I did everything he wanted me to because, I didn't want to, look like I had been drinking, and I didn't want him to search the car and find a beer, and then we all go to jail.
We watch him get the breathalyzer test. He gets Matt back in the car and gets all our IDs out. He comes back and goes, "I don't really believe that you haven't been drinking. Why don't you step out of the car again?" And he goes back there and does another breathalyzer test.
I passed the test barely from what he says, and then I get back in the car. He gets on his radio. And then he pulls me out of the car again. He gives me a second test. I don't remember what the second test was, but he gives me a second test to make sure I wasn't drunk.
And gets back in the car and let Matt go. You know, like, if I was a cop, I would have thought Matt was drunk.
I'm a bad driver. Really, really, really bad driver.